It all started when my roommates left for the weekend. They were going on a camping trip, and since I had work to finish, I decided to stay back. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time. Our house was old, but I liked it. Big windows, high ceilings, and wood floors that creaked when you walked on them. Sometimes the wind would make strange noises, but nothing too unusual. Friday night, I was watching TV, trying to relax after a long week. The room was quiet, except for the sound of the show playing in the background. Then around 10:45 p.m., I was thinking of going to bed. Then suddenly, I heard a loud noise echoed from upstairs. I jumped and seems like my heartbeat stopped. I paused the TV and listened. It was silent again. I convinced myself it must have been something falling over. Maybe I had left a window open and the wind knocked something down. That seemed like the most logical explanation. I grabbed my phone for some light and headed upstairs to check it out. The staircase was dark, with only a weak light coming from a single bulb above. When I reached the top, I checked all the rooms. Nothing seemed out of place. The windows were shut and nothing had fallen over. I tried to shrug it off and headed back down. Just as I reached the top of the stairs, I heard it again. From the attic door at the end of the hallway. It was 3 heavy knocks coming from the door at the end of the hallway. My heart raced. The door was always shut. I never went up there. It was dusty, filled with old stuff we didn't need. The knocking felt deliberate, like someone was trying to get out. I summoned the courage to open it. I slowly walked toward the door. My hand was shivering as I reached for the knob. I twisted it slowly and pushed the door open. The attic was pitch black, and the only light was from my phone's weak flashlight. I shined the light inside. Nothing. It was just the same old dusty boxes, broken furniture, and cobwebs. I closed the door quickly and headed downstairs, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling. Maybe it was just my imagination. That's what I told myself. I sat back down on the couch, trying to focus on the TV, but my mind kept drifting back to the attic and those knocks. Then, just as I was beginning to calm down, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming down the stairs. My heart stopped. I hadn't heard anyone go upstairs, and I was alone in the house. The footsteps grew closer, but stopped just before reaching the bottom. I didn't want to go look, but curiosity got the better of me. Slowly, I stood up and slowly walked toward the doorway. I leaned my head slightly around the corner, just enough to peek. Nothing. The stairs were empty. Then I decided to lock all the doors and windows, just in case someone had broken in. After double-checking everything, I sat back down, too tense to watch TV. Hours passed like this, then, at nearly 2 a.m., there was a knock at the front door. I jumped up, and my heart was pounding. I checked through the peephole, but no one was there. Trying to brush it off as a prank, I sat back down, but another knock. Louder this time. My blood ran cold. I felt watched. Again, I checked the door. No one was there. But then the knocking turned to pounding. I grabbed my phone and called the police, whispering that someone was trying to break into my house. The pounding stopped suddenly, but the silence felt even worse. That's when I heard it, a voice, soft and creepy, from the other side of the door. "Let me in." My blood froze. It didn't sound human. "Let me in," it repeated louder. I panicked and shouted that I was calling the police. The voice laughed. A chilling sound that echoed through the house. Then the lights flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness. My phone was the only source of light now, and I could barely see anything around me. The voice came again, closer now. "Let me in." I turned around, shining my phone's light into the darkness, but there was nothing. The house felt colder, like something dark and evil was watching me. The footsteps continue, this time coming from upstairs, slowly descending the staircase. I was trying to move but couldn't, trapped by fear. The sound reached the bottom of the stairs, then stopped. I could feel a presence, something cold and menacing, lurking just beyond the reach of my light. I pointed the beam toward the corner of the room and saw it, a tall, shadowy figure, half hidden in the darkness. It was tall, with long, thin limbs that seemed too long for its body. It stood there, watching me. Paralyzed with fear, I couldn't move. The figure took a step forward. Its movements were slow and deliberate. Suddenly, my phone's light flickered, then went out completely, and I was plunged into darkness. A whisper came from behind me. "Let me in." I couldn't take it anymore. I ran for the front door, fumbling with the lock, shaking so badly I could barely get it open. I threw open the door, ran down the street, and didn't look back. I reached the end of the block and finally stopped. The police finally arrived, and I explained what had happened, at least the parts that made sense. I told them about the knocking, the footsteps, the voice, and the shadow. They checked the house, but they found nothing. No signs of forced entry, and no evidence of anyone else being there. They said it was probably my imagination, but I knew better. The next day, I packed up my things and moved out of the house. Months passed, but sometimes in the middle of the night, I still woke up and heard that soft whisper voice, "Let me in." And no matter where I am, no matter how far I run, I know it's only a matter of time before it finds me again. I was 14, and it seemed like an ordinary night around 9 p.m. I was at my cousin's house, babysitting him while my mom and aunt were out shopping, and my dad and uncle were at the movies. We were sitting on the couch watching TV, but something didn't feel right. I had this weird, strange feeling like something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. The feeling wasn't going away. The more I tried to ignore it, the stronger it got. So, I got up and walked to the back door to lock it, just in case. As I walked back through the kitchen, I saw something that was causing my weird feeling. Outside the window, there was a dirty, ragged, homeless-looking man. He was staring straight into the house, his eyes locked on my little cousin. A chill ran down my body. My protective instincts kicked in immediately. A wave of fear gripped me, but I knew I had to stay calm for my cousin's sake. I didn't want to scare my cousin, so I pretended I hadn't seen anything. I told him we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon, and they wouldn't want him staying up too late. We went upstairs, and I tucked him into bed, even though I knew there was a strange man outside who wanted to get in. Once he was in bed, I stood there for a moment. I knew I had to do something. At the time, I was about 125 pounds and 5'4", and I played football at school. I felt strong, but that didn't make me feel any safer. I went back downstairs, straight to the kitchen, and grabbed a meat tenderizing hammer, anything that could help me defend us. I took a deep breath and turned back at the window where I had seen the man, but he was gone. Panic set in. I rushed to the front door, checking the locks over and over again, making sure everything was secure. Then I went back upstairs with the hammer in hand and sat down in front of my cousin's bedroom door. My cousin asked what I was doing, and I told him not to worry. Everything was fine. Then I called the police with my shaky hands, then my dad and uncle. The police said they'd take about half an hour to arrive, and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Just as I hung up, I heard a window shatter, and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. My heart raced. I whispered to my cousin to stay as quiet as possible and hide under the blankets. I could hear the guy walking sound slowly climbing the stairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat hammer and waited. About 5 minutes pass, and then I hear the boots slowly climbing the stairs. It is horrifying. My cousin's room was just 10 feet from the staircase. The man opened the door to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. After a moment, I heard him walking back downstairs and opening the door to the basement. The next 15 minutes felt like hours, but finally, the police arrived. They searched the house and found out the man had escaped from a nearby mental hospital. The terror of that night never left me. Even now, I can still hear those heavy boots echoing in the darkness. Still haunts me. Several years ago, I used to live with my ex-boyfriend. We had just moved into a 2-bedroom house and started making it feel like home. We turned the back bedroom into an office, since the house had only one bathroom, and you could only get to it by going through that bedroom. And we often had friends crashing on our sofa, and we didn't like the idea of them needing to walk into our bedroom to get to the bathroom at night. It felt awkward and a bit too personal. So we'd been living in the house for about a month when this incident happened. My ex was out with his work friends, leaving me home alone for the evening. The house was quiet, and I was settling in for a typical night by myself. I spent the early evening watching TV and eating takeout. Occasionally I heard odd sounds, but whenever I tried to focus on them to figure out what they were, the sounds would stop. As it got later, I decided to go upstairs to use the computer for a bit before going to bed. At the time, our phone line still wasn't set up, and I was using a pay-as-you-go phone that had run out of credit, so I couldn't call anyone or get in touch with anyone while I was alone in the house. That night, I was sitting in the back bedroom with only a small table lamp on that cast a faint glow, making the room quite dim. I was focused on typing away on my laptop when I suddenly heard those strange noises again. At first, I heard a faint rattling noise that was so soft I had to really concentrate to tell if I was hearing it for real or if it was just my imagination. So I turned off my music to listen more carefully and tried to figure out what it was. Then I went into our bedroom and looked out the front door, but there was no one outside. I then went back to the back bedroom and peered out the window, but the view was too dark to see anything clearly. We had a small yard with a high brick wall and a solid wooden gate, and there was no light back there. From what little I could see, there was nothing outside. I sat back down and turned the music on again. About 10 minutes later, I heard a creepy screeching sound, like metal rubbing on metal. It was very faint, as if whatever was making it was trying hard to be quiet. Now, I was feeling pretty scared at this point, so I went into our bedroom to grab a heavy iron rod we had previously found in the back of the closet. I didn't turn on any lights as I wasn't sure what was going on and didn't want to alert any possible intruder to my location inside the house. I carefully went back into the office bedroom, closed the door quietly, and locked it. I also put a chair under the door handle to make sure it stayed shut for about 20 minutes. Nothing else happened. I started to feel a bit silly for getting so worked up, thinking it was just because it was my first night alone in the house. But this time I didn't turn the music back on. It was a good thing I didn't turn the music back on as I started hearing whispers, like two people talking softly, and both voices were male. They didn't seem to be coming from inside the house. I had left the office bedroom window slightly open, and it sounded like the whispers were coming from outside. I went into the bathroom to see if I could get a better view of the alley behind the house. The office bedroom and the bathroom made an L shape around the yard, with the bathroom sticking out farther. I climbed up onto the ledge and carefully opened the bathroom window to try and see into the alley. I couldn't see anything, but the whispering grew louder and seemed to be coming from right behind my gate. I couldn't hear entire sentences, but I caught enough to guess that these men had seen us move in and noticed we had a lot of valuable stuff like guitars, computers, my DSLR camera, and TV. I figured they knew somehow that I was alone and were waiting for me to fall asleep so they could break into the house. I stayed in that position for what felt like forever, until a huge thud echoed up to me. Now they had stopped trying to be quiet and were now banging on my gate, trying to break it down. I saw the gate shudder and shake with each hit, and I could only imagine how strong these men must be now. I'm a small female, and I was terrified watching my gate struggle under the pressure. I sat there holding the iron rod, trying to think of a place where I could hide from them. Suddenly, a bright light blinded me. I panicked and hid, thinking they were shining a flashlight at the back of the house. But then I heard barking and shouting. When I looked out again, I saw that the house across the alley from us had turned on a floodlight. I heard grumbling and cursing, and then I heard 2 sets of footsteps running down the alley. I stayed locked in that back bedroom until my ex-boyfriend came stumbling in around 4 a.m. I didn't sleep at all that night, and when I went into the yard in the morning, I saw that my gate was hanging by just one hinge, making it easy to get through from the alley. When I looked at the back of the gate, I saw that the keyhole was scratched up, as if someone had tried to force it open. If the house across the alley hadn't turned on their light, I shuddered to think what might have happened. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these true, terrifying stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss scary stories that will keep you up at night.